Welcome. I don't see it on YouTube yet. I just want to make sure. Yep, we're live. Okay, amazing. Mute. Okay, welcome to No Gatekeeping, the Founder Series. I'm Carlin Bushman, and today we're doing something a little different. I am so excited about today. I'm sitting down with the one and the only my community manager and social media manager, Michaela, for a real look at what it's like to manage brand voice and content from behind the scenes. And not only brand voice and content from behind the scenes, but mine. We're like pulling back the real curtain because it's been a journey, Michaela. So I want to talk through your perspective of this and really getting behind the scenes on my business and working with me. And
Mhm.
it's okay. Like, I'm ready for this, whatever you have to say for sure. So let's just dig right in, just because I know that everybody is really interested. And I'll watch the questions too, as questions might come up, because you usually do this with me.
Yep.
So many founders know they need to hand off content. This has become a really big conversation point lately. And it's one of those things where we know our social presence is so important in our business. And we have to show up consistently. Like, consistently is always the word that's used, right? So when you go on vacation or you've got, family obligations, right? So we need to hand off content and have somebody really help us through that. But the biggest fear is, will someone else ever get it?
Mhm.
And today we're unpacking that. Like, first of all, we don't even live in remotely the same space. So let's talk about this. And I just really want to introduce who you are. First of all, Michaela's been with me through the start of Pop Academy, this series, and everything in between. So she's the perfect person to share the honest side of building brand voice in community. Thanks, Michaela, for taking time again. And this was not by force. I asked you,
Yeah.
actually.
I,
So talk to us a little bit about you.
yeah. So, well, first of all, thanks for having me because it's weird being on this side of um, of these things because I'm usually on the back end. So I have been working with you for I think we're going on 5 years. I think it'll be
Amazing.
5 years, which is
Yes.
crazy. And we kind of started off as like just socials, like probably the bare minimum social media management, pretty much, and that's evolved over the years, which I think we've come to a really good place on that. But we keep evolving, and love, I love where that's taking us, and yeah, it's been a journey, but a good journey for sure.
Michaela, this is not even your educational background.
Nope, it is not. It is
Right.
not. I am. My educational background was kinesiology, which is the study of human movement. So, on my one side of me, I work with the human body and all things science, which I find really fun. But then I also have another side that's very creative and organized, and I don't know, but I didn't feel like I was getting that aspect in my science-based job. So that's kind of where I'd come in with this job and wanted to test it out, and here we are 5 years later.
Which is so awesome. And let's make sure we share, where are you?
I am in Northern Ontario, Canada. So pretty much probably as far north as I could probably get from you.
Yes. So, as a reminder, I am based out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Michaela, when she says Northern Ontario, and this is why I'm really pointing this out, because you can make this work, and it's worked
Yeah.
so great for us.
Hmm.
She is a 2 hour flight from Toronto. Is it roughly 2 hour flight?
Yeah.
I've
So,
visited you where you live, so this is
mhm.
real.
So I'm from Ottawa, which is also in Ontario, and it's an 18-hour drive. So like it's crazy to think that you could be in the same province, which is like our equivalent of your states. Um, but I could also drive from Ottawa to Florida in less time, which I think is so funny that
Oh my gosh.
this country's pretty big, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty north.
So it's been like a journey, and let's like get into the weeds on this a little bit because I want to do some behind the scenes stuff. And I'm always like, I love my team so much, like you and Kylie and Sarah. Like, I feel like we've just got such a great core of like incredibly talented, wonderful humans. And so when you first started working with me way back when, what was the biggest challenge that you had in the brand voice piece of all of this?
So I really thought about this because I remember a lot of it being hard, but as is anything when you're literally starting from scratch and not having as much education on the backside of it. But I think what it came down to was not necessarily finding what your business is about and the services you provide and all those things, but like learning who you were specifically, like who you are as a person, what your values are, what your beliefs are, like just so that whenever I do your content, that I can pull that personal piece and not make it sound like it's from me, but it's from you. Um, which I know at the beginning we had some issues, and there's probably some issues now that like randomly I'll write like favorite with a U, which is like a Canadian thing, and it just and Carlin has from the beginning has been like, you know what, like it's fine. Um, it gives a look into kind of I'm so far from you, but I think that was probably the hardest part, and that's something that only takes time. So I think maybe even both of us, at least for myself, like I would get impatient and I'm like, oh, why doesn't it, like I just can't figure it out. Like nothing was clicking as quick as I wanted it to. But fast forward 5 years, sometimes I think more like you than I think like me. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Well, that can be kind of scary, so be careful about that. But I think part of the struggle with the brand voice and having somebody, with your skill sets jump into all of this too is you made such a good point about taking time because, I mean, let's be honest, like I don't even know my brand voice sometimes. Like, I mean, I do now a little bit better. Like it's just continuously evolving. And so it can't be easy for you because I mean, we've worked together a long time, so like, yes, you almost think like the stuff you like share with me now. I'm like, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. That's something I would have actually thought of, and you just said it out loud. So yes, that has taken time, but I think in the beginning, I can be confusing. Like I take full ownership of if I'm not clear on my brand voice and having something to give you as a starting point, how could I ever expect you to know what to say, when to say it, what my pillars are, what my values are, right? So
Yep.
how did you filter through that? And how do you keep me on track? Let's just say those two things.
Those are two very broad questions, very big and broad questions. Well, the first thing on like how I think we navigated that and continue to navigate that is I think you and I have continued to be like vulnerable and been like, I actually don't know the answer to that, or like, oh, I actually don't know how I want that to sound. Especially when it comes to like new services or new things that we're putting out and trying to like get into your brain to be like, how do you want this to come across? And I think that's something that I think we're like pretty good at is the open line of communication and just the check-ins to be like, hey, does this kind of sound what you want it to? Um, so I think that's been a huge aspect from the beginning, and it continues to get better. And now we've just made that more efficient over time. In terms of keeping you on track, I honestly think the same answer. I think it's understanding that you also have a busy schedule and I have a busy schedule at times, and like I think one thing that makes a huge difference is we have check-in calls just to pretty much check in and to make sure that everyone is on the same page, we know what's going on, because I do notice that when, like, let's say you're traveling the world like you tend to do, um, we if we go a while without like a meeting or like a Loom video, then like I start to feel lost a little bit, being like, am I missing something? and I know that you've felt the same in the past, where you're like, I feel like we haven't like heard from each other in a bit, so like, can we just make sure we're on the same page? But yeah.
I think what's also helped us, Michaela, is like we figured out this year, I want to say it's in the last 8 months or so, maybe even just before the year started, I can't remember, where we've identified like check ins to be very specific to our topic, right? So if you and I are working on a social plan for August, then that will be the topic, and our meeting will be solely focused on August's social plan or whatever that is. Or if I'm doing a workshop or I've got a new service offering or whatever it is, I think for us to identify time and not feel like anything leaks into that, right? We're like solely hyper focused. And if we have to have 2 or 3 meetings that are 30, 45 minutes, and when I say that our time, we try to keep them shorter, more
Yeah.
focused than longer, and try to cover everything. How's that worked?
I think actually, and it's funny because I don't know who or what kind of like made us have that realization and like, oh, this is so much more productive. Like, I feel like we had probably just had one of those very specific calls, and I think it started with the team meetings, focusing on one specific thing that we were like, we should do this all the time. Like, it was so
Mm-hmm.
productive because there wasn't any like task jumping or like flipping through the tabs in your brain pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Because it used to be like an hour long general meeting where we kind of went
Mm-hmm.
over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we would stop our train of thought at a certain point because we're like, we have to touch on the next thing. Whereas if
Mm-hmm.
we have like one solid meeting on just a specific service or socials or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's been 10 times more productive, I find, in my
Yeah,
mind.
I do too. And I come more prepared. I come
Yeah.
prepared. Like you're like, okay, we're going to talk about X. So if you were to give advice on somebody who is, first of all, from my perspective, if I were
Mhm.
to give advice on somebody who's looking to outsource or not like to delegate, that's a better word I want to use here, because there's lots of different ways that this can be done, whether it's an agency or an individual or whatever the case is. But if
Mhm.
you were to give advice from the receiving end of having social, let's start just with social media manager, just
Yeah.
that specific, you do so much more for me now, but from a social media manager standpoint, do you have advice for somebody new stepping into this relationship with a founder, an early stage founder too, right? Because that's me, right?
Mhm. Um, I think honestly, be willing to learn, and that it's going to take time for you guys to figure each other out and how you work and what works and what doesn't work. Because I think a lot of people get stressed out or like anxious, like I did, and I think I still do on certain aspects, where if I feel like I don't know something or I haven't like perfected something, it makes me nervous. Like, doing this call made me nervous. Um, so I think being open to feedback and being open to learn and knowing that it's going to take time to figure each other out, and so that you are a part of the system at a certain point.
Well, and we've tried a few things that haven't worked.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that?
Yes. If I can, do you have anything in mind? I know there's probably 1,000 things that we've tried that don't work. Um, but I think even in terms of like social media, like there could have been platforms that we have tried and we're just like, you know what? Like, it just like doesn't align. And that's something that I think you and I have gotten really good at, is knowing when to keep testing it, because just because something like didn't work the first time or second time or third time, whatever, then is it still aligned with your business? Is it still something that you feel very passionately about? Um, or does it not align and it's just a waste of time? And that could be social media, project management platforms, like different systems and processes that I think we have gone through multiple of all of the above. But I think honestly a perfect example of sticking to something that you really want to do is Pop Academy. because that's been an idea forever, like
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And it took a few tries for it to work the way that I think you envisioned it and then how we envisioned it, like as a team. And I'm so glad that it did work, because that was something that you're like, I just know that I have to do this.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, sounds good. Count us in.
Yeah, which is really cool. And you're right. So I was given advice, and I'm going to give a shout out to Carrie Kirpin. I was on a group call with her, and she said, entrepreneurship, really, the thing that sets apart successful entrepreneurs, and I say successful in a very respectful way. It could be success on you have a flexible schedule, right? I mean, I'm not saying success always revenue driven. If you can believe I'm saying that, I'm saying that.
I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze.
So, right, I think it's longevity that sets apart entrepreneurs, and that's something that we've developed over time too. Is that pace and sticking with something? I think, Michaela, the other thing that I recognize as a founder and having you support Pop Academy and supporting all of us, through the social media outlets and then some, is that there's going to be mistakes. Like, who
Yep.
cares? Social media, I teach social media is short term, right? So there's going to be things that show up in a caption, or there's going to be things that show up in whatever the case is, or maybe it doesn't sound exactly like me, or maybe it was a little too chat GPT-ish, or whatever the it is. Okay, that's okay. Like, that is such a great space to just have a meaningful conversation and a learning opportunity between both you and I together, right? We can say, okay, this is why. And I think that just takes time too. But I see so many times where founders outsource or delegate social media, and then they get so frustrated in the first 30, 60, 90, let's just even say 6 months.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. Like, how long it's taken us to even get to this, right?
Yeah. And I think, like, even at the beginning, we had started with, like, I would send you captions, or there was even a point where, like, you had written the captions, until I had gotten to a point where I understood how you wanted it to sound, which I think is a good thing. And then, but something I always say with social media, and I think I've said it to you, but I use it in my life quite often, is we're not creating oxygen. So it's not life or death. If something happens, obviously you want to avoid the mistake as much as possible. But it's social media. Like, things come and go so quick, and you see it with, like, trends and all those things, that just as you're kind of catching up to what platforms want from you, it's like, oh, they've changed their whole entire plan. Um, so being patient in that aspect, and using everything as a teaching opportunity. And I know Mary had said this on her live stream, not that long ago, that I loved, was the 80% rule that she had implemented with her team, is that if I can hand this off to someone and them do an 80% job of how I would have had it done, then it's good enough. Like, don't dwell on it. And I think our business, or your business, is a, like, the key definition of that is, like, progress over perfection, and we use it all the time. Um, so I think, and we use that inside and outside the business. Like, it comes up multiple times.
We really do.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we really do. Think about what we're doing right now. Last week's YouTube Live never ended up being a live because I couldn't
Yep.
get YouTube to connect to Riverside, right? And we didn't panic. We didn't, cancel. We didn't do anything. We just moved forward, and we just made it a recorded opportunity on our YouTube channel. So we just did that, right? So it's progress, right? And now here we are back live. And I love that. How did you feel before coming on to the YouTube live, Michaela?
Well, I think I texted you because you gave me a few options. We didn't have anyone for this time slot this week, so you had said you could hop on the live with me, or we could just do a meeting on some other stuff that we were working on. And instantly in my in my head, I was like, I am not getting on a live. There's no way. But then I actually stopped myself and was like, why not? Like, what harm could it do? And it's something that I do want to work on in my life. So getting uncomfortable creates that progress, and so far so good.
So far, so good. So far, so good. Okay, so I have to ask you, what is the one thing? Not you. It doesn't even have to be one thing, but if you look back at our history of working together through this journey of social media and all the things, is there something that has been more challenging? Like, what is one of the challenges you've had working on my social media from a distance, could you say, over the last couple of years?
Oh gosh. One thing that's been consistent, and it's no fault of anyone's, is that I wish that in a perfect world I could just follow you around and document your day because it would be so much easier. And we had the opportunity to do that at a conference recently in Ontario as well with High Vibe. Um, and so much easier. Like, I had so much content that I didn't have to try and like explain to you over a chat or a voice note or whatever. Because I also don't want to take away from what you're doing throughout the day to get content for me. Like, there has to be a balance behind that. So I think that's been the hardest thing, is trying to get into your daily life without getting too far into your daily life.
Do you have
Yeah.
any solutions for that? I mean, because then, I'm thinking about that, right? And I agree. It was so great to have you at the conference. And it was it was great to spend some one-on-one time with you and to have you at the conference, and the aha moments. You're like, oh, this makes more sense now. Like,
Yep.
it was really, really impactful. And maybe doing that, looking back, maybe we could have done that sooner and your career with us, right? But it is what it is. So we've learned from it, which is great. So the next person we bring on board, maybe that's one of the things we make sure they do, is they join us live and then do
Yep.
something like that. But thinking back to that, would you recommend, like, how would you solve that, I guess? Because it'd be a luxury to have a social media manager like within the same zip code or block or city or something, but we know that that's not realistic.
No. Um, I think we've come up with a few different solutions, and it really depends on what it's for. So, like, in part of her daily life, that part has been we just have a shared folder of photos and videos that you will upload, and you can either put a comment underneath to explain exactly what was happening, or like who should be tagged, or what content we could make out of a certain thing, or you just leave it, and it's kind of like creative freedom on that side. And I think that's probably our longest lasting strategy on that point, I believe. Um, but in terms of just content, like regular social media content, it's putting together a list of what would be ideal, what would be awesome if we could get. But I hope that I've never made it too strict where you felt like it wasn't you. I usually gave it like a pretty broad topic or way of putting things that my vision was, but then you make it your own anyways, which is perfect. And that helps with the brand voice, is because it is you putting the creative spin on it, or vice versa on those.
So just logistically, so for people to be able to understand that, what we're talking about here is we have a shared photo album inside of our Apple phone photos. And I think it dates back, this one particularly, I think dates back to August of 2023 is I think what it
Yeah.
might say.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing things or Michaela requests things from me, I just drop those pictures or videos or anything, really anything. And what I've figured out over the last couple of years is I kind of drop anything in there sometimes that is not, unless it has other people and I haven't asked for permission or something like that. But I drop a lot of things in there because I never know where you can, I don't know why I say she, where you can like intermix that with a reel or intermix that into something where there's a voiceover on it and it's just a scene of a sunset or whatever the case might be, right? So that's been really, really helpful. I do feel like I need the shot list from you on a regular basis. Like I feel like I can easily go off and just like create randomness on my own when I remember, but it's so helpful when you say, okay, here, and we've done that recently in our notes app on our phone as well, right? Which is an easy thing to pull up. And then as I'm doing the things you're asking me, I sort of check off those boxes, you know.
Yeah.
Some get more complicated though. Sometimes I'm like, I like, and I overthink it and then I try to retake it and then it's just a hot mess.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've worked on, and I think at the beginning was something that we both had to learn was messing up on things like that or things not being perfect shows who you are as a person, like, and it makes your audience like no trust you, because if we were perfect all the time, people would be like, there's no way that she preaches progress over perfection but is only ever perfection online. So that's something that I think we've continued through the 5 years of doing this, and that comes along with I would rather have way too much content from you than not enough, and I can pick and choose what goes out, and a lot of the times it is not perfect. Like, it's not setting the stage as if business is always perfect or life isn't always perfect. So I much prefer that than not enough.
So on that, then how do you handle the feedback? And you touched on this a little bit. I'm going to ask one of the questions that we prepared for this, which is you prepared for this. How do you personally handle feedback or moments where content doesn't land the way you planned? And you did touch on this a little bit, but like let's uncover this one more, like a little deeper.
Yeah, so in terms of feedback, I think from you, because I think there's two types of feedback. There's feedback from you, and then there's feedback on content didn't do as well as we wanted, or the vision didn't come out the way that we wanted it to. In terms of from you, I think I've always kept an open mind on how you see it, because at the end of the day, like, it is your business and it's how you want to be perceived online, because I'm not online other than right now. So I think having an open mind, but I think throughout the years I've been able to like come back a little bit and be like, oh, this is what my vision was, and then do we still want to stick with one or the other, or a mix of both? And I think that's something that's also come a long way on our team calls, is that it's pretty much just a whole brainstorming session. But then in terms of through social media and content not landing the way that we want, it kind of goes back to, just because it didn't work, does it still align with what we're trying to put out there? Or is it something that we should just scrap and not waste our time over? Because there has been times where we've done a certain social media campaign, I guess you could say, and it not worked the first time, but then it did super well for something else. So I think a lot of people are really quick to be like, never mind, like, nope, just take it down, we don't need it, because the social media world is kind of a scary place, and luckily our audience is fantastic, and nothing but nice things to say.
Well, and I think that's part of what you're touching on is like vanity metrics versus regular, like, organic vanity, all the things, engagement rates. Like, I'm a KPI person and I'm like, oh, there's so many, right?
Yep.
And honestly, I go between, we've got to grow our followers to, I love our followers and all of our followers, like the ones we engage with, we literally engage with them. And I
Mhm.
have such wonderful conversations in the DMs, and you have wonderful conversations in my DMs with them. And you flag me when there's one that I might have missed to say, oh, make sure you respond to this person because it's such a great, conversation. So for everybody listening, we do stay in touch with our audience, both on Instagram right now and LinkedIn mostly. And I like the organic. If we were at 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers or plus plus, that would be impossible. And, I guess you have to be careful what you ask for. Like, I don't, I don't know if that's really where I'd want to be anyway. Like, I don't know. Like, but I really like where we are right now. And I really like that we've continued to, not only you and I, build this really great relationship and I've seen so much growth also with you. Like, it's been really fun. You forced me to grow. You're the one that came up with like this YouTube live series. So the fact that you're on it is full circle because it was your idea, by the way. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know, YouTube live. Wait, what? But I mean, I felt the same way, Michaela. Like when we first did our first one, I was like, oh, I've done podcasts, I've done this, I've done that. YouTube live, I don't know if I'm ready for that to always sit there and be an asset on my channel forever. And guess what? We could take it down if we don't like it.
Yep.
But it was a brilliant idea. And we're trying a new platform as we're building this together. And that's the journey. Like that's the fun that I get to do with you consistently.
Yeah. And it's been so fun because I think it gives both of us and the team a chance to be creative,
Yeah.
and worst case scenario, it doesn't work. Like, that's okay. Because like it's not like your whole business is based off of YouTube. Like it doesn't work that way for us, but um it's not the end of the world if something doesn't work. But it is good to get outside of your comfort zone, which I think is fun and I'm currently doing. But that's what creates the growth, and that's something that I think you touched on, like our community and how much we love the followers that we do have. Um, like that's something that we hop on team meetings and we celebrate like a follower's win from the week, and it doesn't even have to be like a client that has worked with you in the past or is currently working with you. Like we see them and we're like, oh, did you see so and so like finally launched their business or had a baby or whatever, right? Like they are genuinely people that we think about on a daily basis. So with having a huge following, you also just have a lot of opinions that come in. So I think there's pros and cons to both.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do we have anything on the horizon that's another growth opportunity for us internally? Is there anything that's coming up outside of, I know we're going to do the workshop and things like that, but we've done those before. But I mean, any ideas that come to mind? I don't know. I'm just asking you because I feel like we're having a meeting here actually during this YouTube live.
This is just an inside scoop to our team meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we've talked about a lot on how we can up a lot of the stuff that we've already done. Like, for example, we have another free workshop that's coming in August, and we did the same workshop in January, but we're pretty much revamping it because I feel like CBC's path has changed a little bit, so we do have to adapt what you're teaching and what we're promoting on social media, with having like for us more of an AI approach and how you can use it in your business. So I think that will be a huge thing, but I also feel like we've gotten rid of things that just like don't serve us either. So
like the fall gift guide.
Yeah. Super fun, but just
not right now. We
doesn't
did it
align.
last year. Yeah, we were going to do it this year. We're not doing it this year again. For all the reasons, maybe we'll do it in 2026. I don't know, but it's just kind of sitting out there in the wings unless we figure out a different way to do it, or I don't know. It wasn't that it was a flop. I felt like it was just a lot of work. So from that perspective, it was taking us away from kind of our mission, which is hard because I loved the idea when we thought of it, and then I'm like, yeah, I guess not.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. I love the behind the scenes that we were able to do here, and I want to do these again. I really love staying consistent. It's not always easy, but staying consistent and having longevity in this space. And I love that you showed up with me. Yes, you had an easy out. I was like, I'll do whatever you want to do. I can get on by myself. We can have a regular meeting, or you can join me on YouTube and talk about how easy or hard it is to work with me on a daily basis. And we know there's days, like, let's not kid each other. Like, I know I'm not always the easiest because my brain goes ding dong thoughts. And then more often than not, everybody has to ask me what the priorities and the focus is. So I can own that.
But it's our process, for sure.
Exactly. So yes, exactly. All right, Michaela. Well, this has been great. And before we wrap up, I want to share this with everybody. Like Michaela mentioned, today's conversation hit home. We're hosting a free live workshop on July 24th, all about, hey, guess what? Delegation. Hiring that social media manager. Getting started with somebody who can help you with social media. It's not only going to be focused on social media, but it is such a wonderful piece to have managed by somebody else in your business. I cannot even tell you. And then we're going to talk about time leaks and buying your time back as a founder, because time is that non-renewable resource that we have. And, you know, money can buy a lot of different things. It just can't buy you more time, right? I know that's cliche, but true. It's perfect for any business owner ready to stop doing all the things and finally get some breathing room in that and feeling really good about it. Like I look back on our journey and I'm like, I love how we've been doing this together for a while now. And I love the fact that we can say we've been doing this together into our 5th year, which is incredible. Yeah. So you can register right now. The link will be in the description below. And that is our No Gatekeeping series for today. This is exactly what we talk about, no gatekeeping. I really encourage you to tune in next time. And always feel like you can put your questions in the chat. We want to just have all those raw and open conversations, real stories from both sides of the business. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything. And we'll see you next Thursday. It's been great.